Speaking of dreams and dream systems, I am really excited to welcome Pete Brad from Miro. Some of you may have seen some of Pete's work already. He's pretty famous over there. So his session that he's going to take us through today is called Radical Visibility, the operating system that ships actual improvements. And this is part of our digital engine track, which we've had as a concurrent theme through the conference. So Pete is the chief evangelist at Miro, and he's going to demonstrate how radical visibility can transform scattered improvement efforts into transparent, accountable delivery. And his session introduces a visual operating system that automates handoffs, proves impact, and turns brilliant analysis into real results. And the session will include a live demo, which we're really excited to see, and of course, question and answer. And you're very welcome to pop it in the chat or come off mute. Seems we've got a smaller after lunch session today, so please feel free to come off mute. And Pete, with over 15 years experience spanning tech startups, government innovation policy, and corporate transformation, you bring deep expertise in digital delivery and AI-powered collaboration. And prior to joining Miro, you were one of us. You led the University of Sydney's digital transformation during the pandemic. And today you're helping organizations all over harness AI to amplify team intelligence and drive breakthrough innovation. Pete, without further ado, it's over to you.
Thank you. That's a very kind introduction. Nice to see everyone on the call. There's only a few of us on here, so yeah, please come off mute. My style's to be pretty casual. I'm going to share my screen, which is the Miro board, and I'm also going to put into the chat the Miro board, and you're able to come in and join this. I can find the chat again. There it is. Okay, I'll just put the Miro board link on here, and I'll come into our full screen mode. So this is our presentation mode. My name's Pete Brad, as was introduced. My background is in digital transformation and innovation, and I've done quite a lot of work in the higher ed sector. I started doing work with Monash Uni actually back in 2016, and then I met Sydney University and Elizabeth, who's on the call, and I started to work together around the same time. And then I ended up actually joining the University of Sydney in the pandemic with Elizabeth, and we set up an initiative called the Delivery Accelerator, which was helping the university do its digital transformation. It was an operating model which I'm going to take us through today. A lot of it's borrowed from IBM Garage, and I was part of the partnership team at IBM before I joined Sydney University to help them grow their capability. So I'll run through that. When we were at Sydney University, we chose Miro as the tool to use to help us scale the transformation. Obviously, during the pandemic, we were all working remotely, so we needed a tool like Miro to help us do that. And then after 2 years at Sydney Uni, I joined Miro as our chief evangelist. I've got a big background in collaboration and innovation. I was the thinker in residence at the Digital Transformation Agency and helped them set up a lot of the stuff that they were doing around collaboration, their collab space, communities of practice as well. And so I'm pretty passionate about enabling other people to be innovative. And I define innovation as anything that's kind of new to you as a person, right through to invention, which I know universities do a lot of. So in terms of, I'll get into the presentation now. You can feel free to join me on the board. We've got a few interactive sections on there as well. So recently I was doing a webinar with Jeff Gotthealth and Josh Seiden, who wrote a book called Lean UX. It was sort of around like lean designers and agilists trying to get together is sort of what the book is about. And they've most recently written a book called the OKR book. And it's around, in terms of visibility, objectives and key results, and sort of outcomes thinking. And when I was on the webinar, I asked Jeff, I said, management by objective is 70 years old, yet it's still a problem in many organizations, and they've just written a book to try and solve it. And I said, why is it not landed? You know, after 70 years, and it seems to be the way to be doing this kind of work, why is it still not landed? And he said it's a lack of radical transparency, so visibility. And essentially what he mentioned was organizations move to autonomy. They leverage autonomy, they give teams goals or objectives, and they let them come up with ways to solve them. But at some point, somebody asks the manager, well, what's going on? And the manager doesn't know the answer. And so then they start to micromanage and they start to ask for status updates, and they don't know how to use the tools that the team's using. And so people have to start creating PowerPoint decks to kind of run over that stuff. And eventually the autonomy starts to disappear. And so that's one of the challenges to doing management by objective and OKRs is this lack of transparency. And he actually challenged the audience to, if you want to be working by OKRs and having autonomy in the way that you and your team work, you need to be radically transparent. Otherwise, you're going to fall into this trap. So in terms of the work that we did at Sydney University, I'm just going to change my layout because I'm going over the content a little bit. There you go. So in terms of the university, we joined, and at the time they were sort of kicking off their agile transformation, and they had two teams working on that agile transformation. And so over 18 months, we actually grew from 2 teams up to 25 teams. Every 3 months, we went up a couple of teams, and that was around building the capability. But we also applied it really broadly. So we did initiatives in all portfolios. We started off with four portfolios, actually split it into 5 in the end, but research, students, teaching and learning, and operations. And we focused on speed to value, so trying to prove impact. And before each of these portfolios, put multiple initiatives into the way that the delivery accelerator was working, we wanted them to see how it worked and to make sure they were confident with it. An example of that is in the student services space around students or alumni needing the academic transcripts. They may have lost them or, for whatever reason. And often they're needing them for a reason. Somebody's asked them for it and they go looking and they can't find it. And they need it. And so at the university at the time, it was taking 3 weeks to get those transcripts out. And so the team went through this process improvement, or many of them, and we were able to actually get it down to 10 minutes from somebody filling in a form and saying they wanted the academic transcript to it being digitally emailed out to them. And obviously that's needs to go through a whole bunch of verification processes around who they are, make sure that we're sending out the official documentation to the right people. So that's an example of what we're able to do. Now, in terms of, this is a question for people that are online, I'll just jump. There's a few people here. Feel free to put your answer in the chat as well. Just open the chat up. See the chat, here it is. So what you're able to do if you're new to Miro, I can see there's a few visiting people, is just grab a little sticky dot here and you can bring it down. And so this question is, how many improvement initiatives at your institution are currently stuck between great workshop and actually changed? And if you're not wanting to jump on the Miro board, feel free to put your answer in the chat and I'll drag the dot down for you. Reshare that for you, Jason. You'll be able to join. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, so you can see a bit of a scattering over here. Nobody in the 20+ area though. So when we were at Sydney University, one of the things in the operating model that we brought forward was visibility for blockers. And so this came from IBM Garage. They formalized it and we brought it into the university. And it was the #1 part of the operating model that teams loved, that individuals loved. And when we were at the quarterly planning sessions, or other social events, people would come up to me and just say, Pete, the thing that has changed my life is impediments management. I used to get blocked or slowed down, and it just would go nowhere. I couldn't get it resolved. It would take months, or never ever happen. But now I've got a process to raise what's blocking me or slowing me down, and it actually gets resolved. And so over the time, we had over 140 blockers raised and resolved. Now, these are blockers that were blocking, an individual or a team, but when we solved them for, the university. And so I'll run through a little bit about that as well in terms of the visibility section when I do the demo. Now, what I've noticed in terms of like lean and CI initiatives failing in higher education from my experience comes down to these three things. And feel free to jump off mute and share your perspective and whether you agree or maybe there's something that's missing. So firstly is that success remains invisible. So bottom-up implementation can often not get that visible leadership. And sometimes it's because the change that maybe Elizabeth just took everyone through wasn't done early enough, and people don't know why we're doing the initiative. They don't understand how it links through to what they're working on, and to be honest, it might feel like a bit of a distraction to them. The second one is that the improvements get trapped in silos. This is a big one, and it's where you might be trying to do something in your department, but you need to scale outside of your department to make it work. And sometimes that can be quite difficult, building those relationships, doing the change process, and even getting resources and time from people that is needed to be able to do the change and land the change. And then finally, you need impact. You need to demonstrate impact. Otherwise, support evaporates quite quickly. And you need to be able to prove an ROI. And so in the model, the operating model that we have here, the promise, the value proposition is speed to value. We really want to be showing that value and impact early and often. And I'll talk through how we did that in the demo as well. Is there anybody else that wants to share anything before I move on about other challenges they might be seeing in their university?
Nothing in the chat yet, Pete.
Cool. I count to 10 just as a heads up. Okay, so one of the things that we see, all over organizations that use Miro is this handoff issue. So you generally have workshops. We understand, what the initiative's about. We do the mapping. We identify, the opportunities. We might create a project plan or a roadmap. And then we need to either hand it off to a department or perhaps as a handoff to another team. And then it just goes into this black hole. And in terms of what we see happening in that black hole is that, some of those impediments hit. So the a blocker hits, maybe we need budget approval, or nobody knows who owns it, or there's no clear sponsorship for it. At some point, given those impediments and those blockers, time just starts to pass away, and people get pulled back into BAU. They get busy, particularly in universities with the academic calendar. You've only got certain time windows to do certain things, and then the project ends up stalling. And then 6 months later, people are saying, "Well, whatever happened to that initiative? We did this, but it didn't really get off the ground." And then sometimes people are like, "Well, I don't want to touch something that didn't get off the ground," so it never gets off the ground again. And so we've got this sort of major challenge around handoffs that we're sort of solving for. And so with this radical visibility and the operating system that we created is looking at these kind of pillars. So the first one is that strategic intent is visible. Your teams understand the strategy, they understand the value drivers, the goals and the priorities. And ideally, not just a PowerPoint deck, but they're actually able to hear it from the people that created it, and that it's front of mind for them. The second one is that work in flight is visible. You've got your portfolio of active improvements, and everyone's able to see what work is being done and what work is coming up. So they're able to plan their own capacity to support perhaps their change if they're looking to implement changes. It's particularly important in, again, the university sector with the academic calendar. Only, some changes can only be made in certain windows. The third one is that those blockers and those slowdowns are made visible. And so I'll take you through the impediments management with an SLA-driven escalation process. Fourth is that progress is visible. We're measuring progress around outcomes. So not just output or artifacts or activity, but actually outcomes. And I'll take you through our value framework that we used as well. And then finally, it's that the thinking is visible. And so that's on Miro, you've got access to everybody's thinking that they did all the workshops that were done on Miro, or maybe they were done in person and then uploaded using our QR Stickies app. And you're able to, if you join a team or you join an initiative or a project at some point and you weren't part of the initial workshop, which often happens, resources are allocated once something moves through a bit of a pipeline, you've kind of missed the opportunity. And so as part of the operating model, we really want all of the thinking, all of the work to be done, thinking about the people, not just that are working on it today, but might be working on it in the future. And as you scale the change out through the organization, different departments or teams that might be impacted as well. Okay, so I'm going to get into a demo now. Is there anyone on the call that's totally new to Miro and hasn't seen it before, just so I know how fast or slow to go?
I think there might be most who are familiar, Pete,
Most are familiar.
but
Awesome.
but if there is anyone, maybe just pop up your hand.
I can't see anybody on my screen, unfortunately, but if you jump in the chat or just call out. If you need me to slow down, just let me know. I'm here for you. Okay, so this is a Miro board. You guys are on it, and on the left here we've got our space. So a space is a collection of boards and other things that a project team or any team can get access to. You can see here it's just got two members in it, Bryce and myself from Miro. But if you had a team, you'd be able to add them to this space. If you're familiar with Miro, this used to be called projects. Inside the space, we've now got sections, and inside sections, we're able to add in boards and other things, which I'll sort of run you through. And so what I've done is I've created an overview of the operating model here using a demo. I've called the demo Mad Keen University of Innovation as a bit of a name. And I'll just take you through these 5 steps of the operating system. So the first one is making the strategic intent visible. And so what I've done here is I've put an example of what you could do to make strategic intent visible. And so what we've got on this board here is we've got the university strategy, we've got our Mad Keen for University strategy video, we've got the strategy document, which people can read online. And we've also got our key metrics, and this is represented in a value tree, looking at the different value drivers of the university strategy, and then some of those leading indicators that we might be wanting to look at. And we'll come back to using this later. The next thing that you might want to do is as you move from, say, a 10-year strategy, or depending on how long your strategic horizon is, at a kind of executive level, is moving down into maybe 3-year plans, still at that strategy level, and you're able to communicate what you're doing on that basis as well over that period. And then as you move down how value flows from strategy down into planning, we can start to look at portfolio plans across the different areas. And so what we're able to do is have the senior leaders from each of these places also create videos and roll out their why behind the strategy and what the strategy is, to try and create that clarity, but most important, help people understand it so they can feel that their work contributes to it. And when they've got an idea, they know whether the idea is something that's going to drive those outcomes or not. And so you're able to embed all of these videos and documents and diagrams onto a board like Miro, and you're also able to embed talk tracks. So over here, you can record a talk track video, which is somebody kind of walking you through, and I'll come back to this in a little bit, walk you through things. And so those talk tracks can actually be embedded directly into the Miro board. Once we've done that strategy, the next thing is to get into the planning. And so what I'm doing is showing you a pipeline process. So what we've got here on a Miro board is we've got a number of formats. So Miro not recently, but well, somewhat recently released a number of formats. One of them, and the most popular one, is tables. We've had over 20 million formats created since we launched our formats. And what tables is a table that's pretty powerful. What I've got here is a synced table, and I've used some of the functionality in tables to combine the initiative database, group by stage, and then we've got a Kanban by stage as well. And then we've also got a visualization of our timeline and roadmap. Now, this information on here, every one is exactly the same information. It's just visualized in a different way that enables people to see the most up-to-date information in the view that is useful for them to achieve what they're wanting to achieve. And so what we've got here, for example, I'll just bring it into focus mode, is a pipeline of work. And so as people are looking at putting forward their continuous improvement initiatives and ideas for initiatives, we bring that onto the backlog. And at some point, work needs to move forward. And so what we want to do is take it off the backlog when it's been endorsed to move forward and allocate somebody to it. We've got a DRI here. And we've also got our the value driver portfolio listed as well. And so what you're able to do is come in here and inside of Miro, you get all of the fields that are available that somebody might want to fill in. I'll show you how to do this in a little bit of time. But people are able to manage work. And at Sydney University, what we did was we had a weekly pipeline meeting with anyone that was involved in this work, senior leaders, and we would review the pipeline of work and agree to push it forward, based on their capacity, their capability that was available to them, and also the capital that might be required and whether they had it or not. And so we were moving work forward so we could manage both the workload, the supply of or the demand for workload, and then our supply in terms of making sure that people could work on these initiatives. So that's sort of like a pipeline view and trying to make the work visible. One of the unique things that happened was people just hadn't seen this kind of visibility before across the organization. They'd only seen the visibility on steering committees they might be in or privy to, obviously the major initiatives, but at this kind of continuous improvement level, they hadn't seen it across many different portfolios, and it actually helped them probably with two realizations. One was there was a lot of work going on that they just weren't privy to. And that helped people that were supplying, I'll use the word supply resources, but capacity people, other things, to justify why they couldn't work on the initiative at the time that they wanted it to be worked on, because they could see the volume of work. The other one was they're able to piece things together and say, well, we're actually going to be working on that, or Bob in my team did some work on that last time. Let's get Bob involved. Things like that. We sort of connected all that together. So the next one that we might do once an initiative's kind of kicked off, the team had project spaces that were created for them. And so this is an example of what it might be. One of the things you can do in Miro is you can use our templates, and I've got a few of those templates here, or you can create your own templates, so your own way of working. One of the pillars in Miro is innovate your way. And so this is an example of our Six Sigma templates from our website that you're able to come in and download, value stream mapping or other kind of workshop templates you might need to diagnose what the initiative is about. And so what a team would do in our environment was they wanted to document the initiative or the idea on a page. And we used something called a delivery canvas, which isn't this, but similar. The purpose of this is to make sure that everyone can see what the initiative's about, again, for visibility. And you can see whether, for example, maybe the assumptions aren't there or the outcomes aren't well defined. or perhaps the stakeholders are missing people. By having it all on one page, everyone's able to see what they agree with, what's there, what's missing, or maybe what they disagree with, and have a really robust conversation. One of the problems with like long business cases that get submitted through like an approval process or some other type of process that doesn't have this level of visibility, both the visibility of it being on a single page, but also shared through the pipeline process with good visibility with stakeholders, is those things are missed and they come up as the blockers or impediments down the track once you kick the initiative off. So that's one thing that we did. Elizabeth, you've sort of obviously done your session on change. So the change canvas or some type of minimal viable change canvas to have a look at that as well. And then as the team gets formed, some things that we would do is use something like the team canvas to help the team work out, why they're doing what they're doing, what their roles are, personal goals, values, some type of team charter or team expectation setting, any areas that the team might be missing or they want to highlight as a weakness, and then strengths the team can work on as well. So this is from a website called the Team Canvas. It's available on Miroverse, but it's a very popular template for that kind of norming and forming stage. And then finally, as the team eventually starts to build out their backlog of work, they were able to do this using the visibility of Miro and using our cards system. Some teams use Jira or another tool, Trello or other tools. Other teams were using Miro cards in Miro, and so you're able to come in here and add an idea, and it's all sort of drag and drop multiplayer real time, and you can bring that across. So that's an example of how a team would start their initiative, and it being very visual. So this board was shared with the stakeholders, with the other team members. Everyone had access to it, and they were able to come on here and leave comments or perhaps leave a talk track. You might be asking a sponsor to review something, but you can't get time with them. You can't move forward without their approval or their insight, but they're not available till 6 or 7 p.m. because their day's back to back with meetings. Working asynchronously can be really awesome to that. And so you can come in here and record a talk track for them and explain it to them, and then they might be able to record a talk track back for you, and you watch it, the next morning when you start. It's quite popular. You've also got the ability to do comments and leave pretty detailed comments if people have any questions as well. So that's a little bit about projects. Obviously, as the team builds out, you might be doing things like value stream mapping, and the team might actually move from a board to its own space to map out inputs and outputs and different phases perhaps. And what you can do in terms of the visibility is everything in Miro has its own URL, and so you're able to take the URL of a particular frame or even a particular post-it note or anything on the board has its own URL, and you're able to come in here and click on the 3 dots and copy the link. So this is copy link section here. You've also got the link to the specific board, which you can use as well, or the space itself has its own link as well. And so if you were trying to create a bit of a visibility for your portfolio of initiatives, you may create a board of projects, and if those projects had spaces, they're big enough to have their own spaces, you might link those spaces together so that people can kind of navigate to them or find them. Okay, so the next thing that generally happens when you're doing this kind of work and you're going through the planning section is you're identifying risks. And so what we would do is have the risk register, and again, using tables, you're able to have that visually visualized in Miro. Now, this is a unique thing about our formats is we've got this focus widget URL, and what you're able to do is share this URL with somebody, and it brings it up in this focus mode. So they don't even know they're on a Miro board. One of the challenges with Miro can be for people that aren't aware of it, if you drop them on your board, sort of depending on how neat or messy or perhaps creative the team is, it can be a little bit difficult to navigate. And so these focus widgets bring people exactly to what they might need to see. and they don't know that they're on a mirror board, but they can go onto the mirror board and see all of the background if they want to, and add things around it. So it's a pretty awesome feature the team's built. With these tables, this is a risk register table. So we've got our little groupings here: identified, assessing, migrating, mitigating, controlled, and accepted, whatever fields you might like. And we're able to group. I've just come in here and grouped by status. You're able to group those, and so when you're doing a meeting with people, you can go through maybe outstanding risks that have been identified but haven't yet been assessed. Or teams can come in here and see what's being assessed, and maybe leave a comment for someone and saying, "Hey, we really need this to move to mitigating," or we need approval to start mitigating it, for example. It sort of gives you that visibility that's available here. You're able to do things like I've grouped by status, but perhaps you could come in and group by this is the portfolio. So we've got our the outcomes that we're looking at, student satisfaction and research outcomes, come in and group by other, whatever you've got in your header. Basically, you're able to group by. Now this is synced as well, and so I'll show you where it's synced to in a little bit. But you're able to create these synced views, and so people can have access to the same document, knowing that it's up to date, and they can create their own versions of what they want this document to look like by using filters and groupings. So that's part of the risk management process. The one that I mentioned before that we had as Sydney Uni that came from IBM Garage was this impediments management process. And so this is one of the big blockers for work, is that at some point your team will run into something that's inertia that slows you down or blocks you from doing something. It could be resources, it could be a decision, or it could be a clarity on process. What is the governance around something? Could be somebody needing to make a call on that governance. There are all these risks, there are all these inertias that come up, slowdowns and blockers, and the team needs to get them resolved. But without a process like this, often they just don't get resolved, and they fester, and the project ends up stalling and being closed down eventually. And so, as I mentioned, this is a really powerful process. Now, what we would have is, in terms of the process, this is the visualization of it. We have this impediments register. Anybody that was slowed down or blocked could raise an impediment by coming into the impediments register and adding a line into here, and they would fill in the form. And we would then have daily impediments meetings, and we would run through all of the impediments. And there was an SLA that we had agreed to, which was if you were blocked, it would be resolved within 8 hours. And if it was slowed down, it would be resolved within, I think from memory, about 24 hours. If it went over its SLA, so for example, a blocker wasn't resolved in 8 hours, it would be escalated up. The person that you'd asked to help solve it, they would then need to bring somebody else in to help solve it for them as well. And it would just keep escalating every 24 hours until it got up to somebody that was able to solve it quite quickly. And so this process and the escalation process enabled these impediments to be removed, so the team could continue with their momentum and not get stalled, not have the project fail. The main benefit of doing it, though, is actually these impediments are all those things in your organization that were sort of maybe a decision for another time or for a different situation. Maybe they were created by somebody that left and nobody's just revisited it yet, but they're causing all of this waste in your organization. They're causing people to slow down. And what we want to do is have all our little worker bees out there surfacing up all of this waste, all of these impediments, so that we can improve the organization, one impediment at a time. And so again, looking at the list, you can group. I'm just grouped by open and closed. You could group by impediment type, like blocker or slowdown. If you have other categories like portfolio or owner, you could group as well by that and view that. You could group by SLA status, so exceeded, for example, and maybe you run through the exceeded ones first, and then move down to others that haven't been exceeded. But it's a really awesome way to make these things visible. Okay, so I've run through the pipeline process, the impediments management process, the risk management process, how we might kick off a project, and then the project team to use the space and use tools like TalkTrack to share improvements. One of the things I wanted to jump into was how do you get those ideas from everybody? And so what I've done is I've created a little ideas portal on here, and what we're able to do is create this is just a frame on Miro. And we've created some cards that are in here. And if people have an idea for something, or perhaps you're working with people and you'd like to fill the idea in for them, they can come onto a board like this, and they're able to add either to a table, or if they're not familiar with tables, maybe you have the instructions to get them to add in to a card, and they can open up the card and then they can fill in the information. So, what's the portfolio, what's the description, idea name, expected benefit, who's submitted it, the person that's submitting it. And these can sort of sit here in the idea stage and at some point be added to the backlog so they can be reviewed in the weekly pipeline meeting. And so this is a great way, particularly for those small things where you want to be collecting lots of ideas to get your ideas portal going. This is an example. I've got 50 ideas on here, and I've split them up by different stages. So, what's on the backlog, what's being reviewed, and what's being endorsed. And you're able to, create these tables fairly flexibly, allocate, people. So, Bryce and I, for example, we've allocated ourselves to this particular one. Getting ethics approval feels like waiting for Christmas. Can we simplify the forms? As an example. And so this is a great way to collect all of those ideas so we start to understand where the opportunities for improvement are. Now, finally, before we move to Q&A, I wanted to show you something that maybe an executive or a sponsor might be interested in, and that's their personalized dashboard. And so inside of Miro, using tables, or we call them synced copies, you're able to synchronize and build your own view of what might be important to you. And so if you're an executive, maybe you're keen to understand what's in the open pipeline in your area. Maybe it's in research or students, and you want to see what's there so you can manage it. You're able to come in and build your own view in here, and this will always be up to date because it's a synced view. You might want to see the open risks, so things that have been identified but not yet assessed, and build your own little risk dashboard that's available to you. You might want to look at the impediments and see what are the impediments that are open in your space that might be escalated up to you if they're not resolved. And so these are the kind of things you can build in using these synced views and synced copies to build your own dashboard or your own view so that you're able to stay up to date on what your teams are doing. You might call it a sandbox, so like a little space for everybody to be able to build their own view of work that is happening and what they need to stay across. And it's always up to date because you've got these synced views. So what I'm going to do now is jump back to the presentation. Done a bit of a demo, and I'll go back into our present mode. And so what we've done is, without radical visibility, what we have is a lot of those strategic goals are in slide decks, or they're on a website and a PDF. We've got our projects. People are doing, asking for statuses in Teams or emails, and things are getting lost. People are having to ask for that information. Our blockers, they're hidden, they're unknown, they're frustrating team members. Our progress, people are pinging each other. Send me an update. Your boss is, writing you an SMS at 8 p.m. at night because their boss has asked them for something. The handoffs, they're manual. You've got to go and chase for information. These are back to front. I won't fix them now, but with radical visibility, what you're getting is the opposite of that, right? So you're seeing your strategic goals is visible. You've got your projects are in roadmaps and people can double click into them. All your blockers and your slowdowns are visualized in a dashboard with an SLA, and there's a process around it with daily impediments management. Your progress and your outcomes is visible if people are using the value tree. They're identifying in their delivery canvas or their project canvas which outcomes they're focusing on, and they're tracking those. And you're able to ladder all of those back up to your value tree, so you can see where the outcomes are expected and how you're tracking towards your metrics. And the handoffs are all auto escalated as well, using something that I haven't shown you today, but we've got statuses that trigger in Miro, will trigger different actions. So this is another activity, just to see, given what I spoke about, what you might like to do. So the question is, if you could make one thing radically visible tomorrow, what do you think in your organization would have the biggest impact? And so if you just grab a dot, you can bring it down and place it. If you're not on Miro, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll bring it in for you as well. Can't see the chat for some reason, but feel free to jump off mute. So we've got a little bit around active projects in flight, looking at project progress and outcomes. Blockers and impediments were quite popular, and resource allocation. I didn't show you how we did resource allocation at City University, but Elizabeth will tell you it's pretty comprehensive. Awesome. Okay. So this is
It's not complex.
I didn't find it complex, but others might have. Yes. This is a quote, Trevor, who was our CIO, Trevor Woods, at both Monash and then at Sydney University and then back to Monash. He shared lots of these kind of quotes, and it's one that we put into our playbook. We wrote a 150-page playbook on this operating model and how people could participate in it. And the quote we ended on was this one, which I found really beautiful, is that the future is not someplace we are going. The paths are not to be found, but made, and the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. Sort of just around the journey there. And so the question is, 6 months from now, what will you say? Are you going to be having projects ending in workshops and not getting to actual change? Or are you going to use a visual operating system to be able to remove some of the frustration, the tension, the dysfunction that comes from teams, from all of this hidden visibility? And going back to what Jeff Gotthealth said around management by objective, the number one issue that they had, or they could see, was that we weren't being, as team members, radically transparent with our managers or stakeholders. And that was at some point causing a little bit of fear to creep in, and then they would start to get back into that micromanagement piece, or start to really ask you lots of questions and take away that autonomy that really gives teams the purpose and a sense of belonging and significance. So let's jump to questions. Feel free to come off mute. I'll leave this up here. This is my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to ask, connect and ask questions as well there if you've got anything private that you want to share with me. I'll share another one for you if you want to leave any details for us. And let's jump into some Q&A. Got about 15 minutes left.
Pete, thank you so much. I've been using Miro for a few years now, and I'm still blown away by, how good it is. And it just proves I need to get my butt into gear to consolidate everything a little bit more. It really is that one project management tool that you can enable across each part of the activities. I know with our institution, sometimes the buy-in can be hard, but I figure it's a period of time and further exposure will help them get to that point as well. But yeah, keen to hear any questions we might have. Candice has just put one in the chat. How many people can utilize your board?
My board or a board in general?
I would say a board in general, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think there is a
No,
limit.
Oh no,
I was
Candice, go.
curious how many people are using your board.
Oh,
How many people, say at Sydney University, was using the operating system?
Yes.
Yeah. At our peak, we had 25 teams, and there's around 400 people working in this way. So it was quite broad, and we went through every portfolio in the university. So we had research operations, students, and teaching and learning using it as well at Sydney University. A number of universities in Australia actually have full campus licenses. So, the University of Technology Sydney is one that we've done a lot of work with, and they use it extensively actually in teaching and learning, and particularly for group work. So one of the things when you're trying to encourage students to come together, I was doing a talk recently and they're all communicating on Instagram, which I found funny as a millennial. But on Miro, what you're able to do is actually log in and see who's done what. Every object has metadata attached to it, and you're able to see who's actually participating, who might have written something. And so some of the universities are using that just to check how group work's going, which can be quite difficult for students where two people do work and the other two don't, for example. So it's being used pretty extensively. Here in Australia, we've actually done some really great pricing with Cordit to give a massive discount. But globally, Miro actually provide Miro for free to students and to teachers. And so you're able to jump onto Miro for Education and apply for that if you're a student or teacher. But all the administrators, the people that I was working with at Sydney University, we had an enterprise license, and we're lucky in Australia that I think it's about 90% off or something. It's pretty well discounted.
Thank you.
Thanks, Candice.
There's another question there from Melissa. So do you have any tips to help people adopt a mindset of radical visibility? So we are struggling to help some staff understand the benefits of sharing and making people aware of their work. It can be seen as creating a sense of distrust. So I think the first thing to do is just lead by example. Be radically transparent yourself. At Sydney University, we were in the pandemic, so we're all on Zoom. We recorded everything and we shared all of those videos of every meeting, every pipeline meeting, all of the playbacks. They were all recorded and shared with people, and people found that a little bit intimidating, to be honest, but it created a real sense of two things. One was that you didn't need to attend the meeting synchronously. We've got a real challenge in most organizations around joining meetings and meeting fatigue. And the reason that most people join these meetings is because they don't want to miss out on information. And so by recording things, and at Miro, we're async first, not async only. We do synchronous meetings, but we record things. And we might share information using TalkTrack or something like that before the meeting, so we can use our synchronous time to discuss, debate, or decide. Recording can be quite useful. I think the other thing is setting expectations. So this is like proactive objection handling. And that is when you start to share information, all of these, the warts and all come out, right? All the stuff that existed that nobody knew about because it wasn't made visible starts to pop up. And then people start to go, holy moly, this is terrible. And you're like, well, it was always terrible. We're just visualizing it now. And so it's sort of just letting them know they're going to go through that journey and asking them, is it better that it's hidden, or is it better that we know about it so that we can deal with it and make progress? I think they're probably the top tips that I have. And maybe just note that there are different types of people. Some people don't like to have their videos on in calls. Other people do. Some people don't like to be recorded. Other people don't mind it. So just sort of having a little bit of inclusivity around that, as well, and just seeking, I suppose, permission and maybe having a conversation about it so you can get those preferences up, which can be useful, like in the team canvas that I shared previously.
Elizabeth's left you a lovely comment.
Thank you. Yes. So yeah, we'll get UNSW getting back into this operating model. Any other comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say Christina could be a very viable option for prioritization as well. Yesterday we had a session about how we're all working with prioritization on our continuous improvement initiatives and talking tools as well. But yeah, Miro might work.
Yeah, definitely. And I like the idea of the asynchronous ways of working, because the biggest challenge for us is when we're getting to define that problem statement or goal statement, but trying to get everyone in the room together is really, really difficult. And so, or just reviewing a particular document, like a project brief or whatever it may be, just getting people to come. And so I like the idea of being able to put like a little video of this is what we're asking you to do, having it on the board, getting them to put their feedback, and so that people can just do it at the time that they're available to do it, and finding the time, because I think our biggest challenge is that our projects blow out over 6 months just to kind of get to recommendations, right? And that's partly because we're trying to just schedule everyone in the same room so we can continue on with discussion. And so I like this idea of being able to get people to come to the table when they're
I love it too. And I'll just share my screen again and take you through a tip you can use for that. So I'm not fully used to Teams. Let me try and get here it is. Just come out of the presentation mode. So if you are running a session, one of the challenges with Miro is that everything is visible. It's like the opposite of what I'm talking about. And what that leads to is groupthink. And so what you're able to do in Miro, you've got your facilitation tools up on the top toolbar up here. And one of the ones that's really popular is private mode. This was invented, I think, probably maybe a year ago. And you can turn on a session. So I'll just turn it on now. I think you guys can all edit, so you should be able to put a post-it note on or a sticky note on the board. If you're looking at my share screen, you'll see that mine's coming up. You can see it on my screen, which means I can see it. But if you're looking at your board, it'll come up as squiggly lines. And so you're avoiding that group think, which can be really useful if you're doing something asynchronous beforehand and you want to try and tap into the cognitive diversity of the people that you've invited in without them having that group think. I'll just end this for all. When they launched this, the first piece of feedback they got was not private. I can see who wrote what. And so what you can do in private mode is actually come in here and make it anonymous as well, which I just had on. If it's not anonymous, it means you can see who wrote it. The anonymous is good for like psychological safety, or where you might be trying to encourage somebody to leave negative feedback or provide some feedback that you think might be negative. It could be as part of the change process, trying to elicit objections or something like that. Anonymous mode can really help in those scenarios. But often if it's with a team that's working together, I often leave it off. So that's cool. The other thing I wanted to quickly touch on just before we finish up is Miros. I can see you guys all use it, but it's pretty popular in Australia. So we've got over nearly 600,000 Miro users in higher education, and you can see it's sort of grown a lot over the recent times, and even more from the pandemic. In Australia, every university has daily active Miro use. We have between 6,000 and 25,000 new users joining Miro every month. There's over 30,000 monthly active users on Miro from Australian universities every month. They're active. And in terms of boards being created, there's 15 to 25,000 new boards created every month. So it's a tool that's being used and adopted by higher education quite extensively. It's used, as I mentioned, the Sydney University context, but it's used across all portfolios, research, teaching and learning, faculty, and the operations team as well. And Kelly, who was on here before, if you have any questions, this is her email. Feel free to reach out to her, to email her. As a customer of Miro, if you are an enterprise customer, you get access to training and customer success support, something I didn't maybe tap into when I was at Sydney University. So feel free to reach out to Kelly. We also love to connect customers together. So if you've got any questions and we are able to connect you with somebody that might have done something similar, if you've got a challenge, we're always happy to do that if people are willing. I find the university community is quite good at sharing amongst each other. And finally, if you have another question or you want us to follow up with you, feel free to use this QR code here to leave your information. It's just going to bring up a form and you can fill it in. And this can be a way for us to get back to you if you do have any questions or you want us to reach out.
Thanks, Pete. Any more burning questions? Dare I say, Bikram, I saw you came on camera before. Did you have a question for Pete?
No, but if I thought I loved Miro before,
I know, right?
yeah, this has lifted. Yeah, thanks, Pete. This has been an excellent presentation. Thank you.
It's
awesome.
Such a handy tool. And Pete, I want to thank you so much for creating the spaces function and also being able to link to those spaces. That changed my ways of working. So thank you. I know it wasn't you personally, but thank the team from me.
I mean, I'm obviously a Miro fan, which is why I joined Miro after working at the University of Sydney, and I'm passionate about enabling other people to innovate. And my definition of innovation is right from improvement right through to invention. I've just put our YouTube channel there, so I've shown you. I didn't use any AI today, right? Miro is actually an AI-powered platform, and I got to the end of when I was creating that space. I was like, "This is the first day or first presentation I haven't used AI in maybe 2 years." Miro's got an amazing amount of AI in it, and they've actually recently, last week, launched our new AI platform. And so I put our YouTube channel in there, and the keynote from our CEO and our Chief Product Officer is there, and they do a full demo of what you're able to do inside of Miro. We recently launched the ability for the AI to see what's on the canvas. So the canvas is aware of what's on it. So all that embedded content can be seen. We've also launched AI agents, which are called sidekicks, and you're able to leverage those to assist you as well. And your teams, if you're creating those, what you're able to do is customize them. So it could be a checklist they need to fill in, or perhaps some questions they haven't thought. If they're filling in a project template, for example, the site could come on and maybe give them some ideas or suggest things that they might have forgotten. So sidekicks are really awesome. And then for developers, if anyone's doing software development, we actually launched an MCP server, which enables you to share the Miro board with your coding environments. A lot of organizations spend a lot of money on code gen, whether it's Gemini or Claude or others. And the problem with AI outputs, where you get AI slop or you get AI hallucinations, is generally not necessarily to do with the prompt. It's that the AI didn't have enough context of what you were after. And so Miro's perspective that was shared in that video is that the canvas is the prompt. All the work that the teams are doing is the context that AI needs to be able to create great outputs. It's really awesome. So have a look. If you thought you were wowed by what I showed you maybe 2% of what Miro's up to now.
It was good even without the AI. So there you go, Pete.
Maybe I'm the only one that didn't talk about AI today.
We have had a bit of an AI theme, but the AI is cool. We've got a test environment in our instance, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Hopefully we'll get to roll it out at our institution as well. So
awesome.
Great. Pete, I can't thank you enough. I think you've reignited everyone's Miro love. I mean, we always loved it, but now we're going to have renewed vigor to get back in there. So thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you for sharing your details. I'm sure some people will be in touch and check out those YouTube videos as well. Very exciting times for you. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.